Lord Christ.
May the words of my mouth and meditation of our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. So when I first looked at what the readings were today, I kind of had an inclination that maybe I would talk about the idea that when we're called to do something, just get up and do it. As soon as Peter's mother-in-law is healed, she gets up and begins serving them. As soon as the disciples find Jesus, he's like, okay, let's go do this. As soon as Eli figures out what's going on with Samuel, who's calling, he's like, okay, go and do that. And I thought, well, I could quote Teddy Roosevelt. He said, the best thing to do in any situation is the right thing. The second best thing is the wrong thing. And the worst thing to do is nothing. Whatever you do, do something. Or there's the old adage, when's the best time to plant a tree? 50 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. When it's time to do something, do it. And all those messages would work with this, but as I was listening to Fred read, I started to think that maybe it wasn't what was being said, this urgency, this act now sort of thing, but how that message was being conveyed. Samuel heard the voice of God but couldn't figure it out. He didn't know, he didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to him. He thought Eli was calling him. And Eli is the one who set him straight, said, oh, no, this is how it is. Listen, this is what you do. Simon's mother-in-law, Jesus lifts her by the hand, and then she begins to serve him. He doesn't, we've seen him heal from afar. He could have waved his hand before they reached there. They could have said, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to go to Simon's house, and his mother-in-law is real sick. And it could be like the Roman official, when he waves his hand and they show up and the kid's already healed. He actually goes and sort of engages her into the act. When Jesus is out in the deserted place where he was praying, and Simon and the companions hunted for him, when they found him, they said to him, everyone is searching for you. And he answered, let us go to the other villages. They don't say, hey, we were looking for you, or Peter was looking for you, or Andrew was looking for you. They said, everyone was looking for you. And in a way, Jesus responds. That's like the invitation to go and expand this ministry. Not that he needed it, he probably intended it anyway. He thought that was what was going to happen next, he knew. But there's this moment in which it's an invitational call from someone else. And I was just talking to a person going through the discernment process, and we were discussing how important it is that calls we have are not verified, but recognized by others. She talked about she went and gave a talk somewhere, and it was a bunch of people she had never met. It wasn't, the parish, it wasn't the people who have known her forever, it wasn't her family, it wasn't, mentor priests or colleagues that were able to affirm it. It was people that she was meeting for the first time that were saying things like, wow, you're really called to this. Like it was like, saying, wow, you got your hair cut. They realized that it was something visible that they could recognize and react to. And I think that is so important, because when I think about the things that we want to do, or my own, my own personal experience, when I'm sitting here saying, okay, what should we do for Lent? What should we do for the Easter season? What would be a good way to have adult formation or things like that? And I could sit there and make a whole list of things that I think are good. But maybe they're not the best idea. Maybe there is something out there that I could respond to. Or if I make a suggestion and people say, oh yeah. And so within yourself, you can find a way to listen. And listen to be called or invited into something. So that it's not just well, I think we should do, it's what do I see as a need and how can I enter into that? Paul's mother-in-law, she was healed, and there were a bunch of people there, and they needed to be fed. They needed to be given the standards of hospitality, so she did it. And so we think about that and say, what's there? How can I fill the need? Maybe that's a better way to think of the call. Or to sit there and be ready to go into the deserted place like Jesus and pray until somebody shows up and says, hey, we need to do this, and okay, I'm ready. And you can wait because you could know the what that you're called to do, but not always the time or the where or the when or the who. What is an appropriate or formative or fruitful ministry at one parish or with one population or one community is not going to work somewhere else. We don't have one size fits all. And it's why we so often turn to the people in the pews to say, hey, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I see we need as a community. This is what I think where I see this person needs. Maybe you should go talk to them. Maybe you could do this. Maybe we could do something like that. And it's often those type of ministries and those type of programs that are the most fruitful and formative because it is filling a need. This is a shallow analogy, but when you think, okay, this person's hungry, I'm going to give them food versus, hey, you look hungry, what would you like to eat? Or the person saying, hey, you got a ham sandwich, or whatever they might need. And so I think these readings, they do emphasize that idea that when we're called, when something needs done, do it. But I think there's that extra layer, that more subtle thing that is, look for people to call you to do things. Look for the invitations. Look for the opportunities that present themselves for you to engage with it, for you to be called into action, into ministry, so that it's not just a matter of, well, I got a hammer and I'm looking for some nails. It's, oh, there's some nails, I have a hammer, I can fill that. Or there's some nails, I have a screwdriver, but I know someone who has a hammer. So it's that side of it. So we don't become sort of Don Quixote just charging at what we think is there, but actually taking the time to discern what is there and then finding the appropriate action or engagement to respond with. I think that is probably the harder side of discerning a call, is finding times when it is that's a good idea, but that's not for me. That's for someone else. And being able to have the humility to say that and say, I'm not called to do all things, but also to have the resourcing or the community around you so that you know who is, being able to put the right pieces with the right places. To God be all the glory, now and forever. Amen. If this message raised questions or stirred something in you, I'd love for you to stay connected. So like, share, and subscribe. Now go in peace to love and serve the Lord, and I'll see you next time.